How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this video of installing VMware ESXi 5.5 inside of VMware Workstation. I wanted to cover real quickly, I got this to finally kick off and load the way that I was hoping it would. So what we're going to take a look at right now is some of the what's going on. It needs the two Pentium CPUs, so basically it needs both cores of my processor to do what it's got to do, 4 gigs of RAM. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the settings. So when you initially kick this off, it's going to give you 2 gigs of RAM and 2 processors. So I removed the floppy disk from it simply for the fact that we don't need that. And we're going to click OK for that. We can't really modify anything when this is loading, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. So as long as you understand how to get a virtual machine kicked off with an ISO, you'd have to download the ISO from VMware to get it working the way you need it to, and it's a fairly large file, 500 or 600 meg in size, and then once you get it downloaded, it's pretty simple to get installed. So as you can see, we're still installing, getting some things loaded. This is the initial kickoff, and then it's going to go through some scans and things like that to do which hard drives you're going to use and things of that nature, stuff like that. So I'm going to pause the video until we get a little farther along, and I'll bring you back when we get to the next step. Alright, so basically what it's saying right now is welcome to the installation, and VMware ESXi 5.5 installs on most systems, but only systems where the VMware compatibility guide is supported. So we're going to hit enter to continue, and we're going to hit F11. This is just going to be the EULA. If you want to go over this with your legal department, make sure everything's copacetic, I would recommend doing that as well. And then it's going to scan for hard drives, which it only should find one at 40 gigabytes. So I'll go ahead and do that, and it found it, which is good. If it didn't, it'd be a little scary. You can have more than one hard drive, you can have several. Now it says right here, it contains a VMS partition right here, and claimed by vSAN. Now, neither one of these is applicable to us because of the fact that we don't have these markings sitting next to it. So we're just going to click enter, and US default is our keyboard type, and we're going to enter the root password, which is going to be, it's a Linux-based utility is what VMware is. So we're going to type in a password to get to root level access. I'm going to type in a password. I usually choose an 8-character password with numbers, letters, and capitals and lowercase. You can choose whatever you'd like. I don't know if it supports special characters like the pound sign or exclamation point, things like that, but I'm going to do that, and now it's going to scan the system to make sure everything is working the way it needs to. And that should just take a few moments, and hopefully once it does what it needs to do, we should be back in just a moment. Alright, so basically it says there's a scan issue, which means my hardware virtualization is not supported on the CPU or is not enabled in the BIOS. I know that it's enabled in the BIOS, but it's not a feature that my CPU supports. So I'm going to hit enter to continue, and the installer is configured. We are going to F11 install to make sure it actually goes in. Now it's installing VMware ESXi. So this is going to be about the same point in time where if you were trying to set up Windows Server or something to that effect, you would be at this point you would actually be uncompressing, unpacking, and loading files and things like that, and getting VMware or Windows Server to install. So the nice thing about ESXi is it's a abstraction layer. So what it basically does is it presents physical hardware, and it's able to take that physical hardware and allocate it to different virtual machines. So every virtual machine is going to be a guest operating system that sits on top of the host machine. In our case, we're type 2, so we're running Windows 7, then it's VMware Workstation, then on top of that is ESXi, and we're then going to go through our internal computer situation. I'm not exactly sure the technical term for that, but we're going to pull an operating system that I've already got downloaded, Server 2008 and 2012. We're going to load those into VMware, and we're going to go through Workstation and ESX, and once we get it to a certain point, we'll be able to load it to an ESXi data store, and then we're going to be able to install virtual servers through ESXi. So we will have several layers of virtualization going on at one time, which it gets a little hairy, but at the end of the day it still works, and I've been able to get computers up and running on the same domain, things of that nature. So everything works. It's just a matter of getting that type of stuff situated, and that type of stuff is going to be specifically going to be getting your ISO for Windows Server into your data store, and then pointing your installation to media to where it can actually install the actual operating system. So it's a little complicated. I'll walk you through how to do that. It's actually very straightforward. It just, the first couple times you have to be careful on how you set things up and make sure you connect the power on for your installations and things like that. So it's pretty intuitive. It doesn't make it ESX and VMware have made it very easy for people that don't get it to do it, and you don't have to have a VCP, VMware Certified Professional certification, to actually do this. You can go on Google and look things up. They have a lot of knowledge bases. So if I could compare Microsoft to VMware, there would be some consistency, some common ground between the two of them, but in my opinion, VMware smokes Microsoft in the Hyper-V aspect of it when it comes to actual virtualization capabilities, where Microsoft is dependent on a platform to run the operating system. So if you don't have anything to install Server 2, then there's no point of really running it. So same thing with ESXi. You still have to install it to something, well, whether it's on a physical hard drive. Right now I'm installing it on a hard drive on my personal computer and getting it up and running. So we will be able to run virtualization instead of virtualization instead of virtualization. So hopefully in the next week or so I'll have my new server and I'll be able to do this a little more effectively, but it's still installing. So I'm going to pause the video while it does its installation and come back when it's all said and done. Alright, so that's a good sign. ESXi has finally installed. It took it about 10 minutes or so it wasn't too bad. And now we are in evaluation mode for 60 days, so if we wanted to go in and actually enter a password, we could, but we're going to do that at a later point in time. So I'm going to click back inside of here, and we have to reboot at this point. So we're going to hit enter to reboot. Should take a little bit to do that, and then when it comes back up, it's going to be similar to the same screen we started off with the orange and gray. And what we're going to see there is we're going to see DHCP from the VMware side, and once we get that situated, we can go in there and actually set up a I'm going to statically assign the address, because then we're going to use that IP address to point our vSphere client so that we can actually go in and set up vSphere to log into the ESXi host. So the computer, everything's going to be ran from the same machine. So, but in the grand scheme of things, the ESXi host is going to use vSphere to do all the administration side. So you're going to pull up vSphere to do all the administration side. And then when we get a little farther along, I'll talk about vCenter server, and that's going to be how we are able to administrate all of the hosts, because right now anytime you load ESXi, whether it's going to be a type 1 or type 2, and you have that computer set up as a host, and you have several guest operating systems, maybe you have 2 or 3 Windows Server servers running, and everything loads into that. Once everything's loaded, you're going to have a vSphere client console connection into that host. So then you're going to be able to see all the things running inside of it. It's almost going to look like VMware Workstation when you first open it up. If you have a few VMware servers configured through Workstation, you're going to be able to tab them. As you can see here on my computer right here, you have this right here. Well, basically what's going to end up happening, if for every host you have, that's going to be another vSphere client open for each host. So for every host you have open, it's going to be having a vSphere client window open so you can administrate it. vSphere Center, or vCenter Server, that is going to allow you to go in and administrate everything from one location, and we'll show you how that works in an upcoming video. It's not going to happen right away, but it's pretty simple once it's all said and done and things like that. So, alright, as you can see here, we have some things set up right here that we can do some administration to our ESXi host itself. Now this isn't vCenter, or I'm sorry, vSphere. We haven't gotten that far, but this is the IP address that I've gotten from DHCP. This is different from my local network that my wife and my kids use for getting on the internet and printing and things like that. This is going to be local to my machine. So if I was to pull this open, we would actually get this IP address. So give me a moment here. Alright, so basically what I've done is I've gone to my Chrome web browser, and I'll bring this over. As you can see, I typed in this IP address, which is download tools to manage this host from, and then this location. So right now it's telling me that there's an SSL security certificate issue. That's okay because ESXi self-signs its own SSL certificate. So we're going to click on proceed anyway. This will take us to ESXi, and right now what we have is we have the ability to download vSphere client, which I've already got it downloaded. It's just a matter of opening it up and pointing it to this IP address of this device. We could also download VMware vCenter. I've got that downloaded as well already. So my recommendation is if you don't have these downloaded already, go ahead and download. This one will take you to VMware's website. This one will download straight from the local machine. So because it comes packaged, well, I'm not 100% sure on that. So, but I've already got these downloaded, so I just wanted to point this out to you as you're going through. So, if you're a new administrator at a company, you might get an email from a VMware administrator stating that in order to download your vSphere client, you need to go to this address. So you go to this address, and whether it be an IP or a DNS resoluted IP, you'll go to that, download the vSphere client, and all should be good. So we're going to let's close that out completely because I've already got that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter to bring this back up, and it will automatically do what it needs to do to do things. So what we're going to do is we are going to type in F2 customize system, and we're going to type root and the password we selected earlier, which can be anything in particular that you like. So that's going to give us the ability to customize the system. And there we go. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to give us some feature capabilities to get everything situated. So if we come down here and configure management network, so that's the IP address. IPv6 is automatically given a link local address. A FE80 is always link local, and the /64, that's just the subnet range. I wouldn't worry about this too much unless you're running specifically IPv6, but doesn't much matter to me. We can restart the management network, we can test the management network, or we can configure the keyboard, it's already set for that, or you can come in here and there's other options here. Configure the management network. If I wasn't happy with the IP address, I could change it. Normally what I would do is if this was going to be a server that I have separate from my local machine. So, for instance, my home network is in 192.168.1.0/24. I don't need 254 addresses, but I've given myself the ability to. So, if you had a physical server in your home or in your office and you wanted to connect to it through the network, you'd have to change this IP address to be something on your local network. Or something, if it's not going to be on your local network, type in the IP address to point to, so that make sure it's a subnet that you can actually route to. So because you might be on one subnet, the room next to you might be on a different subnet to connect to it. So make sure you have a way to get your local machine to the ESXi host. So in my case, this is fine for me. So I'm okay with this. I'm going to escape to log out. Escape again. Now you can go in here and change this information right here, which I'm fine with the way it's set up. Everything's good. So we're going to escape to get out of that and escape to log out. So now that that's all said and done, once ESXi is running, we're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Control-Alt to break out of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my computer, I'm going to go All Programs, and as soon as it decides to load, I'm going to scroll down here to VMware. I'm going to type in, click on vSphere Client. As you can see, I've already got some other things already configured, and I'm going to click on that. What that's going to do is it's going to bring up our client, and it's going to allow us to connect into our box. Now this is a brand new installation, so there should be nothing here anything I should have to worry about. So it's going to take a couple moments for that to pop up, and as soon as it does, there we go. As you can see, I already had it previously configured for something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this IP address out. And actually, I brought home a server from work to play with. So I'm going to go 55. The username is going to be root, and the password is going to be something that I chose. I'm going to click on, if you're using Active Directory and you choose to use the Windows session credentials, that's actually going to allow you to use your Windows login on your AD domain. So click on login. It's going to connect to the box, which it is running, so everything should be okay with that. And there we go. So what I'm going to do is, it's basically certificate warnings, all this other stuff. I'm going to click ignore, and you can install it if you'd like, but it's self-signed, so there's no real big deal. You know it's safe because it's on your local machine or on a server locally in your home. So I'm one of those weird guys. I like to do things, I like to have a physical machine in front of me that I can play with. So it's going to discover the plugins, and it's going to take a couple minutes for it to actually do this, and then once it does that, it's going to pop up the vSphere client, and then we'll be able to start doing some administration. So, and there's the vSphere client, as you can see popping up, and everything is loading the way it should be. And so we have an evaluation license that will expire in 60 days. That's great. Now you can click here and assign a license if VMware gave you one. We're not going to deal with that. Now you can actually get one from VMware for the free ESX, but the drawback to that is as soon as you assign that license, that particular license strips away a lot of the functionality you're going to get from this particular version of vSphere and ESX. You basically have a completely unlocked, wide open version of ESX to play with. So if you are like me, I'm studying for my VCP certification, this is going to be a great place to start, because then if something goes buggy, you can actually go in and spin up a new ESXi server every 60 days to make sure that you have full functionality, to make sure that when you go take your test that everything works. So we're going to click OK, and this is basically the vSphere client. As you can see, this is the IP address. If I had assigned DNS, it would actually show up as the DNS name. And right now I'm running 2 CPUs at 3.2 gigahertz each, and so right now it's using 1100 meg or 1000 megabytes of RAM, which is fine. 300 megahertz on the CPU, and I've got about let's see here. Let's click on Task Manager real quick, and it's on my other monitor. I run 2 monitors. Oh, that's kind of funny. It's running kind of hard. There's some things I can actually close out, like I'll close that window out. So, and part of it has to do with me running my recording software. It definitely does take a lot. So, that really didn't close out a whole lot. So let me just bring this over. Don't really worry about it too much as to what's going on. That's what I'm physical memory. It is kind of high, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then you can see we have Workstation, and we have some other things running. We have the VMware client. This is ESX, or I'm sorry, vSphere, and things like that. So just to give you an idea of what's running in the background. I do have some other programs running in the background that I cannot shut off. So, but from here, there's some other options we would have. So, for instance, if you wanted to bring in an operating system, we can go to Data Store. We can right-click on here, and we can go to Browse Data Store. And if we wanted to upload something, click on this guy right here. It's upload to this data store. You do this, and it's upload a file. And it's going to take a couple seconds for all this to happen, just simply for the fact that my computer's running pretty hard at the moment. That's why I recommend running a computer with a lot more memory capabilities. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to scroll down to my external hard drive, click on it, and I'm going to go down to VMware, or Microsoft, because I have some operating systems that I've downloaded. Click on Microsoft, double click on this guy. I'm going to come down to operating system images, and I'm going to click on this guy. I'm going to click open. Now it says if a file or folder in the target location has the same name as the one been copied, then it will be replaced. And it's like, yes. So right now it's uploading the ISO for Server 2008 R2. So this will take some time, and it's going to upload it to our data store. So as we're going through and setting things up, that is how you get things in. You can use the same operating system for multiple virtual machine servers. So at this point, that's how you would do it. I'm going to pause the video while this uploads, and I'll be back once we get a little farther along. One thing I want to point out, oh, you guys can't see it, but I've got 3 windows open here for vSphere. As you can see, the 3 there. I've got the vSphere client, I've got the data browser, and uploading the operating system. But I'm going to pause the video and I'll be right back. Alright, now that we have our Server 2008 R2 ISO has been uploaded, now if we wanted to spin up a virtual server, we could do so. So we're going to close this guy out, and if you go over here and you click on this guy and you click on New Virtual Machine, it's going to bring up the same processes you would normally see in VMware Player, VMware Workstation, things like that. So this should look fairly straightforward to you and intuitive. So we're going to click on Next, and then we can name this. We're going to say MS Server 2K8 R2. And then we're going to hit Next, and we're going to say Data Store here. Now, some of the aspects of this you have to be kind of careful, because whenever you allocate it space, it's going to use. If you give it 40 gigs and there's only 32 available, then that's going to obviously not be feasible. So you're going to tell it, you're going to point it to this data store, and we're going to use Server 2008 R2 64-bit, which it detected that. If you're going to use some other version of it that's Windows, and you have Linux, and you have all these variations of Linux, and then you have other, which is going to be a bunch of other options and stuff like that. I don't know how flexible it would be with Apple, because I believe there's some sort of hardware check that Apple does, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to click Next, and you can give it how many NICs you want it to connect with, the speed at which they're going to connect at, the VM network. If you had multiple networks, you could do that as well. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to give it 10 gig. Actually, let's do 15, I believe is the minimum. And what we're going to do is we're going to use thin provisioning. Thin provisioning means it's not going to allocate the full 15 gig out of the gate. What that means is it will only consume memory when memory is needed to consume up to 15 gigabytes. So if you do thick provision, lazy zeroed, it's going to consume 40 gigabytes worth of data with a bunch of zeros. And then and it's going to do this while you're doing other things. Where if you do eager zeroed, it's going to do it before you do anything, so it might take time for 40 gigabytes worth of space to be actually allocated. So we're going to use Next, and then we're going to click on Finish, and then that's going to do this. My computer's running. There we go. So we're going to click on this guy, and now what we're going to do is we're going to point it to what we need to use to get it to work. So we're going to go to Edit Virtual Machine Settings, and then we're going to go to this guy. Now we're going to point it to where we need to go. So we're going to say, we're going to go to Data Store ISO file, we're going to go Browse, we're going to click on this guy, and then we're going to click there, click OK, and then we're going to connect to Power On. And then that right there is how it will spin up. And it'll pull that from all that. So again, if you click Cancel on this, if you click on Edit Virtual Machine Settings, right now if we were trying to spin the server up, it would not work. So you're going to click on Edit Virtual Machine Settings. You're going to go down to CD DVD drive, and then what you're going to do is you could do this from hard disk, but we're preferring not to do that. Now it's supposed to be pulling from this right here, but when I'm doing the initial spin up, we're going to connect Data Store ISO file, browse, double click on the data store, click on this, because this right here is actually, because the actual virtual machine has not been created yet. It's the install hasn't happened and things like that. So if you click on this, it's going to point to something that doesn't actually exist yet. So we've got to point to the ISO file, click OK, and then you're going to connect the power on. You click OK, and we're not actually going to fire it up yet. We haven't done that. So that is pretty much the extent of it. I'm going to pause the video real quick and see how much memory I have allocated, see if there's some things I can close out to actually spin this up. So the other thing we'd want to do too is we want to make sure that the minimum amount of memory that it's going to take isn't maxing us out. So if you're going to use the minimum for the guest operating system, you just take this and you would drag this. So you click on this to bring it down to whatever you want it to be. So in this case, it'd be 512 meg. Depending on the system, would determine how much memory you'd actually need. But that's how you do. You click OK, and so if I was to spin this up, then it would automatically try to allocate 512 meg of RAM and all that other good stuff. So that is pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line on my YouTube channel. As for everything else, there will be more videos coming as I study for my VCP and things of that nature. I hope this has been informative for you. I would like to thank you for viewing.